Saludos. Welcome back. It's your host, Gabe Morales, continuing with our coverage of Mexican Mafia members over the past 60 plus years. Today, we're going to do the eyes. I know I went a little long last time, but it gets really frustrating sometimes trying to do these videos, and it seems like some people just don't get it. I guess they never will. So first of all, I'd like to thank you all for your continued support and your comments of encouragement. On this channel, I tried to educate listeners if they'll hear me out, not only on my knowledge of street and prison gangs, but maybe to share a little personal wisdom about life as well. Like I said before, you can always fast forward past this part at the beginning. You could also cut it off at my final words of advice at the end. But consider this, maybe this channel isn't for you. I do other things other than YouTube. I have me a small ranch. I have chickens, animals. I have over 100 fruit trees, a couple of different gardens here at my place on the Hawaiian Islands, and I grow my own coffee to wake up with early in the morning as soon as the sun rises. I also have a meditation garden, a tropical oasis in my little piece of paradise until I get to heaven, where I rest, meditate, and pray. Of course, got to get that beach time in too, but I'm always on the lookout for sharks on the prowl. I was very observant at Folsom Prison for sharks, so I guess not much has changed there. Some of my friends ask me, how do you do it? How are you able to live in Hawaii? Are you a drug dealer? Or did you hit the lotto or something? No, I live off a very simple retirement check and Social Security. I don't live like a tourist or stay in $1 million condo. We live like the locals do. We live off the land, barter and trade. We still eat lots of rice and beans and top ramen. Some of you guys could probably relate. I've always loved playing in the dirt ever since I was a kid, spending all my summers in Yakima, Washington, where my grandparents were farm workers. I actually like being a pinche palmero. That's how I de-escalate and find peace during my day. I hope that you have a way also to find peace in your hearts and minds. I'll start off with Francisco Tank Ibarra, who was from Arta. I show he was involved in a couple homicides, I believe in Reno, Nevada. So he might have been one of those guys that were just a camarada and then out of state. A lot of times they're considered to be shot callers. I ran into a few of those in Washington State who were pushing that MA card, but really were just associates. But hey, it's very impressive to Sureños out of state, and they do have a lot of knowledge and school them in a lot of the ways of the MA and the Sureño movement, especially in the late 1970s through 90s. Just to say you are from a barrio and Califas back then would usually gain you instant respect, as you were from the MA motherland. But as homegrown Sureños started to grow outside of Califas, often the local Sureños did not like the Cali guys bossing them around and telling them what to do. Also, many did not want to be ruled over by the MA, as they heard frequent stories of abuse, as some of you have heard on other channels. In fact, sometimes they turned on Cali Sureños, who were by then outnumbered by the local ones. This occurred in many western U.S. states. But as local Sureños were prosecuted federally and landed in the BOP, they often found themselves in a bind, because La MA controls most Sureños in the BOP, if they have any numbers to speak of. So these out-of-state Sureños either had to get with the program or lock it up in SEG, or request to be placed on a soft, non-MA controlled yard. I also have a George Iglesias from Florencia. He had a B number, 28886, and was born in 1948. He would have been the older brother of Trinidad Trini Iglesias, who was involved in the homicide of a police officer in 1972. Trini was very involved in the MA during the 1970s, and then I understand shipped out to Oregon around 2002, I think on the interstate comp. Then I have Vincent Tripas Enigo from San Ho. He had a D number. He was born in 1932, so I understand he was involved with the MA going way back. I believe he had an A or B number, then came back with a D number. He was involved in the homicides of a James Katrina, and also I show in the murder of some Bells bondsmen that I believe was investigated by Hayward PD. So like one of the first MA members to be active in the North. I believe in this case, Alfie Sosa was involved, as well as Gilbert San Esteban, who is also from Northern California. I believe he eventually dropped out, and I was told died around 1994. Then, of course, we have the infamous Michael Acha Ison, Acha was Filipino and was from San Francisco. He was involved in one of the first documented Mexican Mafia murders, that of Tom Devers on December 16, 1961 at San Quentin. Stabbed him with a shank. But by the way he delivered his stabbing blows, a lot of people gave him the name Acha, which means hatchet. At least that's what I was told. He was involved in developing some of the first reglas, or rules, for the Mexican Mafia, which I'll be covering here soon. He was involved in the 187 of Anthony Tony Chacon, who was from Lopez Maravilla. Although it's not talked about much, this was one of the first incidents that caused some of the Maravilla members to shy away from La M. This included Anthony's brother, Frank Chito Chacon, who was also from Maravilla, and was one of the first guys to break off to the Nuestra Familia Mexicana in 1965. As many of you recall, there was also another individual from Maravilla, El Hoyo Maravilla, named Louis Araujo, and I have it on several very good sources that he was actually involved in helping the Nuestra Familia Mexicana, namely Chalo Hernandez, create the first NFM constitution, as a lot of the Maravilla guys did not like the way the MA was preying on their own, in particular hitting Maravilla members, many who made up the early nucleus of La MA, one of those being Louis. Ison was also involved in the stabbing of fellow MA member Little Danny Hernandez at Folsom in 1967. I guess he found out that Hernandez had an R in his jacket and was breaking some of the reglas of La MA. My understanding is that Acha was one of the main individuals who sponsored Joe Morgan until the MA in 1969, but I was also told that Cheyenne Cadena was his sponsor, which makes sense because usually it takes at least two people to be padrinos to make a member. In 1971, Acha committed another murder, that of Richard Vera, in the chapel at Folsom Prison. My understanding is that he stabbed him 51 times while church was going on and had other inmates sing louder while he was stabbing Vera to drown out his cries for help. In the Greystone Chapel, located on the main yard, a supposed sacred place that also saw its share of vice and violence at the notorious prison. Heroin was often shot up there, drugs and sex could be bought and sold easily, and murders also were committed there. When the late Irish Catholic chaplain Father Dennis Keeney, referred to by the convicts as the Pope of Folsom, the Pope saw Mike Eisen standing over inmate Vera's dead body. Father Keeney stated, "You are in the house of the Lord," to which Eisen supposedly replied, "The Lord won't have to come far to get this one then." Another interesting story about Acha was there's a MA member named Alfonso Apache Alvarez, who was supposed to help Mike and other MA members escape in 1971, but failed to do so. There was a very intricate plan that was put in place to call Ison and other MA members to court as witnesses in the case of MA members who stabbed a correctional officer at Chino. Apache was supposed to take a team of MA members armed with automatic weapons and take down the transport van as it took Ison and others to court for trial. But Apache failed to do so. Apache also was extorting people at a Mexican Mafia controlled bar in East LA. And there were some other wrongdoings he committed. And for that, Ernest Kilroy Roybal and Alfie Sosa killed Apache Alvarez in Monterey Park, as seen here. I don't have a picture of Apache, but that's his body, taken from a report written by my mentor, Robert Mokel Morel, and he took me to the very spot where Apache was killed. He had gone into the bathroom, and when he came out, they hit him. In 1980, Ison directed Raymond Bevito Alvarez to intimidate a witness who was going to testify against him. Bevito called the witness's wife, Pat, and strongly encouraged her to tell her husband not to testify in the case. The witness did not show up, and Ison got off on that case. In 1986, while he was housed at San Quentin prison, he was extracted by force from the cell due to protesting about the food there. When officers showed up, he warned them that he was the chief and that if they went in on him, there would be retribution. They did take him out, and in fact, he ordered Raul Wedelschirm Leon to stab a correctional officer named Jameson in retaliation for what the officers did to him. Ison was at Pelican Bay State Prison and was involved in peace talks with the Nuestra Familia with his cellmate, Benjamin Topo Peters. The truce did not occur then, but they did have an agreement that if there was an accidental cell door opening, that the MA and the NF would not engage. A lot of them believe that some officers would do this on purpose to instigate and set up fights. Ison paroled from Pelican Bay in 1994. Eventually, he was involved in a bar fight in San Francisco. The fight was actually between two other people, but Ison intervened and became the victim of a beating by a pool cue. I understand that they chased him out to the street, and he died on March 19th, 2001. Michael was loved by his family, who did not see him as a vicious prison killer, as he was described by many. He could be as good as the best of them and as bad as the worst, said his brother George Ison. He was loved by many of us who knew him. Like I've explained many times before, it is not my intention to make anybody look bad or hurt their family, who often knew them when growing up as being very good to them and good to many others. But prison often makes people do crazy things to survive, and so it appears to be the case with Mike Ison, who was not that big, but had a big reputation for being very dangerous if need be. Ison was known as a very good chess player, and even had his own move, the Mike Ison move. He was very close to his mom, Nellie, who came to visit him often, as is seen here. Ison was also close to Hells Angel president and West Coast leader Sonny Barger, who also did time at Folsom. Mike did what he had to do to survive in prison, said Sonny shortly after Ison's death. The two met in Folsom in the 1970s. I know there are a lot of people that ran the prison system that didn't like him, but Mike was a really good friend to me. Anybody who met him would like him, unless, of course, you'd done something against him. I never met Mike Ison, but I did hear a lot of stories about him. That's it for the I's, so I'll go right into the J last names. Manuel Cricket Jackson was from Hazard. He was a protege of Champ Reynoso, being much younger. Cricket was born in 1963, while Champ was born in 1943. I show that Cricket was housed at CRC in 1982, thus he would have had an N number. He caught a parole violation in 1989 and acquired a D number, 39781. He then paroled in 1990. He was involved in multiple bank robberies in 1991 and sent to the feds. It was there that he hooked up with Champ at the ADX. He was released in June of 2004, whereby authorities noted that he had a new black hand on his neck. Cricket was also adorned with multiple other tattoos, including Aztec or Toltec war shield and his barrio Hazard. He was indicted on a RICO case in 2013 and then went out to court in 2017, whereby he was given 17 years. He was housed at the LA Metro Detention Center in 2020 and has continued to be housed there for the last few years, where he is known to be a shot caller. Raimundo Flaco Jaime Aragon was from Canto Vario Setentas. He had an H number, and I understand was made MA by at least the mid-1990s. He was housed at Pelican Bay in 97 and found with multiple shanks throughout his term there. He was then moved to Lancaster by at least 2016, and I show is presently housed at Lancaster, California State Prison, Los Angeles County. I show Edward Janis from Santa Clara, who was MA in the 1970s with a B number. He was born in 1947, and I'm not sure what happened to him. There was also a Richie Jaramillo from Pomona. He was known to hang around several heavy hitters with La M, including Joe Morgan and Champ, as pictured here. I understand he disappeared after that. I heard he was either killed in the 1970s or he took off to New Mexico. Either way, he's no longer involved. There was an Alfred Hardin, who I understand was made in the feds. He came out of Palo Alto, California, but also has ties to Tacoma, Washington. I showed that he was housed with MM members at Lewisburg in the late 70s and was released in 1981. He also was housed at the King County Jail, where I worked for almost 25 years. So in answer to somebody's question, yes, there are occasionally MM members that have been active in Washington State, Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and a few other states. It's not real common, but it does occasionally happen. And I have several that I've documented that I've talked about so far and have more to come. I show Arturo Shady, a.k.a. Spy Jimenez, was M.A. I'm not sure what barrio he claimed, but he had a J number, 69930. And I understand he was M.A. around 2005, and he may have committed his bones by committing a murder in 1993, whereby he caught his J number after his trial. But I do show that he was documented M.A. by about 2005, if not before. I don't have any more information on him in recent years. I show Joe Huesos Jimenez from Florencia, was an active MMA member in the 1970s. He had B number, 37344. I also show Mauricio Jimenez. I'm not sure what barrio he claimed, but he had a B number and was documented as being an MMA member in the 1970s, and I think he was still around by about 2004. I also have a Richard Cuate Jimenez from Oyo Maravilla, who had an A number, 50984. I showed that he was an MM member as documented on rosters in the 1960s. His more well-known brother, Alfredo Cuate Jimenez Lara, was also from Oyamata. He had an A number, 50984, and was involved in one of the first MA homicides in the California Department of Corrections, when he stabbed Abel Nevarez, documented 18 times on December 23rd, 1961 at San Quentin prison. He was also involved in multiple other Mexican Mafia homicides, including that of Raymond Ochoa, that was committed in the city of Commerce in 1972 because he was not taking care of his M. Carnales. Cuate was also part of Chispa Sandoval's Community Concern Program, which was ran by the MA. He then transferred over to Project Get Going, which was run by fellow MA member Michael Delia. But Cuate was suspected of being an informant. Plus, Cuate was also housed in McNeil Island with Alfie Sosa. And I was told by Moco that he once told Alfie Sosa that if he ever gets caught using Chiva, that he wanted Alfie to take him out. These were words he would later regret. He ended up using Chiva at a house on January 22nd, 1977, and was killed by Alfie Sosa and Weddle Shai. His body was discovered on a hillside in Lincoln Heights in East LA. Alfie remembered the words that he told him, but this was also a hit ordered by Robot Salas for Cuate not taking care of business as ordered. Also talk about Jesse Chineno Jordan, who was actually half black and half Mexican. A lot of people have been asking about this guy and had an A number, 63972. He was born on November 5th, 1939. Chineno identified himself as being raza and basically did not acknowledge his black father, who I believe was not in his life like his Mexican mother was. I always heard that he was from El Hoyo Maravilla, but a family member recently told me no, he actually was from Garrity Loma, and that he considered it a great disrespect if anybody described him as being anything other than Mexican. He was documented multiple times on Emmy rosters in the 1960s and 70s and was pictured here with Cheyenne Cadena, Poor Slim Mike Mulhern, Topo Peters, Tuffy Castillo, and Joe Morgan. This was a famous picture that was shown in the movie American Me, but used actors. And many people have used this picture for videos and books. I was told that he passed away in the early 1990s. Rest in peace, Chineno. There was Gilbert Big Bunky Juarez, who was from a barrio in the San Gabriel Valley named Sangra. He was affiliated with the MA in the 1970s and also was considered one of the first Arizona Mexican Mafia members, as seen in his booking photo here. There was also Stephen Little Bunky Juarez from Sangra. He also had a B number and was affiliated with the MA in the 1970s. And a third brother was Victorio, known as Cuppy Juarez. He would have been the middle brother of Stephen and Gilbert, as he was born in 1942. He was made MA sometime in the early 70s and did time at San Quentin. I understand that he burned Topo Peter's mom, Paz Gutierrez, out of some money. And as you can imagine, this did not go over well. He was killed in 1985 by some El Monte gang members. There was also Robert Crow Juarez. He was out of Hazard and had an A number, 666. There's a sign there, 98. He was documented as being MA in the 1960s through 1970s, and then one day disappeared off the radar. And finally, the last one today, Michael Muskie Jurado, was from El Monte. I show he was housed at San Quentin in 1984, and then a gang member there named Bullet spit at him, which infuriated him. So he got the okay by MM member Squire Garduno to hit Bullet. He was involved in the murder of an Agui Venegas that was ordered by Daniel Cuate Grajeda in September 1987. Corrado and Albert Chango Riveresca stabbed and killed Agustin Villegas at the LA County Jail, hitting him a documented 27 times. Daniel Cuate Grajeda also ordered him to hit an individual named Al Robescado. Also on orders of the MA, Jurado and Carlos Gabi Arciniega stabbed George Pelon Soto of Los Nietos at the LA County Jail. Another detail about Muskie Jurado is that he was married to a lady named Sonia, who ended up leaving him for Henry Indio Carlos. And afterwards, Indio targeted Jurado for assault. But that's the way love goes, as they say. And so that's all I have for today. I hope you learned something new. Again, don't forget to take some time out for yourself. Take time to relax. Spend time with your familia. Life is too short. For now, this is Gabe Morales signing off for Gangsters, Cops, and Politicians.
Open your eyes.
I think kind of